Hello, friends. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Happy Halloween, everyone. It is CFLW, the show for this Friday, October the 31st. Rusty with you here. Hope you're having a fantastic day. Man, oh man, what a cool start to the day. What a beautiful Halloween that we have ahead for the area. We're going to look at that. We'll talk about potentially even some chillier weather for tomorrow morning. But man, is it going to be a beautiful afternoon and into the evening hours. I've got your trick-or-treat forecast. We'll take a look at some forecasts across the area as well as we push into November. As always, CFLW, the show, is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys, offering free consultation and policy reviews. They'll walk you through every step of that insurance claim process. They do cover the entire state. You want to check them out, leanonmelaw.com for more information. Hope everyone is doing well. First of all, it's been a bit for us to have a little bit more of a casual conversation with everything that's been happening in the tropics with Melissa and, of course, the severe weather that we had earlier in the week. So the first thing I want to put out there to everyone is, if you're viewing right now, did you have any appreciable impacts from the flooding that we saw earlier this week? Again, some parts of Lake County had 15 to maybe even 18 inches of rain. We had flooding of homes. We had road washouts. Right? We had, sinkholes developing, and, it was a serious situation in some areas. So just want to check in with everyone. Let me know. For my home, we just have a backyard that slopes pretty quickly down. And whenever you get the heavy rainfall like that, you get enough runoff where you get a little bit of washout near the fence line. And, we had that, but we have a friend who lives on Merritt Island. And with that thunderstorm I was covering with the tornado warning, right? It was moving so slowly, and we had the flash flood warnings out for Brevard County. He actually had some water coming up underneath the subflooring, and that's always a scary situation when you're talking about stepping on carpet and, there's a little bit of moisture associated with that. So, there were some issues there. So just checking in on everyone. Let me know how you guys are doing. Hey, Chessie, good afternoon to you. Spring Hill, 47 degrees this morning. Yeah, we had some 40s this morning. We're going to run it back and have 40s again tomorrow morning, and maybe even for more of the area as well. We got the sunshine at 65 degrees. Hi, Diane. How you doing? Georgia in the house, normally from Kissimmee. Of course, I know that. Says it's been wet and cold there, missing your Florida sunshine. Yeah, we've cleared out very nicely on this Halloween afternoon. Hi, Farah. How are you? Spring Hill had a storm Monday evening with just an inch of rain. That's about it, much like the whole year. No doubt the western areas of Central Florida have been much drier appreciably than eastern areas. And that has been a notable trend, again, for most of the wet season. Now that we're into, late October into November, we're going to have to, again, rely on the cold fronts to bring us some of that rain. But, let me just pause here real quickly. These were temperatures at 7 a.m. this morning. Again, 30s and 40s north of us, but we were well into the 40s and 50s. And these numbers are slightly warmer than the actual morning lows in most spots. But, even at 7 a.m., you still had some mid and upper 40s in our northern areas, even down here towards Zephyr Hills, 46. So there are going to be some inland western areas. You get away from the water, and we were, again, mid 40s for lows this morning. Even at 7 a.m., Ocala was in at 46, and that was their 7:51 update, as a matter of fact. So 48 in St. Augustine, 46 in Gainesville, 54 in Orlando at that time. And again, this was the 7:53 advisory. So temperatures for morning lows were lower than that. We were in the upper 40s in Sanford, Leesburg as well. So just a chilly morning. And it's going to be a chilly trick-or-treat forecast as well. It is no doubt, jeans and long sleeves, and we'll get into that. I've got some hour-by-hour forecasts for you guys as well. Hey, Blue Goose, good morning. I think Blue Goose, just like me, is probably so tired right now. I'm going to assume we're going to go with good afternoon. I love it, though. Good afternoon, 65 degrees, 53% humidity, unless he's in a time machine, or I'm doing this earlier in the day, which I've gotten little enough sleep this week. Who knows? It could be 1 a.m. for all I know. But good afternoon, Blue Goose. Hope you're doing well. Appreciate you and Farah tuning in for a lot of the live streams over on Media Mundo as I covered Hurricane Melissa live. All right, so we're going to get into what's happening across their area. And I got to tell you something, friends. Fall has arrived early. We are in store for several more days of temperatures being below average. We've got a beautiful, again, rest of our Halloween forecast coming up. And then we have some really nice weather into early next week as well. As you guys know, we have our live cameras here at CFLW, so we got to take a look at those. Just realized my name is not going down as well. Let me, give me just 1 second here. Let me take my name bar off. There we go. All right, live look outside to Winter Garden. It tells the story. There is nothing but blue sky, and that is that crisp winter blue, isn't it? I mean, the first legit cold front that has blasted through the area with enough north wind and dry air to absolutely clear us out. I mean, it is pristine. I don't know about you guys, but I love the cooler weather. I love this time of the year. I wouldn't mind it 15 degrees colder, but that's just crazy me, even being a native Floridian. So gorgeous shot there. This is a gorgeous shot. You know, again, we don't have a lot of turning of leaf colors here, but we have just a little bit of a hint of some yellows, oranges, and some browns there on the left-hand side from this lean log camera in Winter Park. And again, the sun glistening as we look to the east-southeast. Again, ne'er a cloud in the sky on this Halloween afternoon. Here's the Conway cam. Again, a bit of a breeze near the lakes from time to time, but you know, the winds were fresher this morning, and the winds ultimately will relax and will make it another very pleasant evening as well. And then a live look outside to the attractions area. Again, for any trick-or-treating in these areas and the attractions and all of that, it is absolutely going to be a beautiful forecast. Love the fact that, again, you know, sometimes in Florida we have to deal with daytime highs that are in the mid and the upper 80s, even on Halloween, you know, and then we're sweating through the costumes, even the adults who dress up in the afternoon and evening hours. Not going to be the case today. Out of, you know, a 10 for the forecast today, I'm going to give it a solid 9.5. There's not much better weather for so many of us to be outside and enjoying Halloween on this Friday. Let's take a look at the winds. They're out there right now. So I'll bring on these gusts. Again, earlier in the day, as we had a little bit of a push of that north wind, gusts were a little bit higher. Now they're still going to be in that 15 to 20 mile an hour range for the afternoon hours from time to time. But ultimately, as we get to sunset tonight, we are going to lose that wind, and we'll probably be in that 5 to 10 mile an hour range for most of the trick-or-treating. Now here's the thing, at least especially where I live, right? When it gets dark, we live near a lake, the mosquitoes want to come and kill you, right? So I hope that we stay with that 5 to 10 mile an hour breeze, just a gentle enough to push things where the air is not still, and hopefully the cooler air just kind of keeps the mosquitoes at bay as well, because there are some, you know, Halloweens where as soon as they hit sunset, at least in my neighborhood, everyone is just scrambling to get back inside because the mosquitoes get really thick. You can see them, you know, in the street lights, but hopefully that's not going to be the case this year. And again, the air is so dry too. Let's take a look at these dew points real quick. These dew points right now, I probably got to change this color palette, which I think I can, and I'll look into that because you can't really see these numbers. I can't really see these numbers. They're all in the 40s. The dew points are mainly in the 40s right now, and the air is actually going to be drying out. So if I zoom in far enough, you might see. And again, I've just got to change these because I've got the gray background, and these are gray numbers. I'll just look into changing the color palette for these. But the dew point in Crystal River right now is 43. The dew point in Inverness is 45. Even in Orlando right now, downtown Orlando, the dew point is 43. So, you know, when Chessie and Blue Goose are talking about their dew points, you get the idea how nice the air is. Blue Goose says, my sister said it rained like crazy in Titusville the other day, 10 inches. My cameras in the Cocoa House showed hardly any rain at all. It was somewhat dependent, but there was some pretty widespread rain overall in Brevard County. And again, that was a spot where if you guys joined me for the live coverage, you know, when we were looking at that there were flash flood warnings for Brevard County, that 10 to 13 inches of rain had already fallen in parts of Brevard County. And then in Lake County, that warning was for 15 to 18 inches of rain. And then a lot of Seminole and Orange County late that night and overnight until like 7 a.m. the next morning fell under a flood advisory for some areas around 6 to 9 inches of rain. The school my kids go to, the road just north of it completely washed out. It is still completely closed to any traffic whatsoever. It's an area that during Milton also got completely washed out and was closed for a couple of weeks as well. It's just a flood prone area, a low lying area in the roadway. And, so 2 times in the last year, this road has been completely washed out. And this was more widespread, right? The flooding in Lake County was even worse in a lot of locations compared to what we even had with Helene and Milton. Hey, Charles, how you doing? Thank you, Charles. I appreciate the kind words. I hope you're doing well there in the Bahamas. 77 degrees there, a north wind at 13, 59% humidity. That sounds like a lovely day as well. All right, so we're going to get into the forecast. Just a real quick look at the advisories. Nothing has changed much since the last time we talked on a show. The flood warnings here for Volusia and Lake are going to continue to be for the St. Johns. Obviously, with the heavy rain that we saw in Lake County, additional flood issues are likely in the St. Johns River Basin. Again, that's a basin that's over 500,000 acres. It takes forever to alleviate itself, and with the additional extremely heavy rain that we had in the basin, the flooding continues for those areas. Still going to have a bit of a breeze along the coast, still going to have rip current issues. Now, hopefully nothing more than that here, but just again for Volusia County and portions of Brevard County over the weekend, you're going to continue with the dangerous rip currents. Now, of course, this is the time of the year we're not getting in the water much. It's starting to cool off a bit, but just keep that in mind. Boaters from time to time, things will be freshening up a bit. I believe there was a small craft exercise caution as well for portions of our East Coast. So let's talk about the rest of tonight. First of all, there is no rain in the forecast whatsoever for the remainder of the day, right? So it's really just about temperatures and what we're going to be doing when we're out there trick-or-treating. I don't know how many of you are going to be out trick-or-treating with families. I have 2 kids. I'm going to be out the whole night. So I put together a trick-or-treating forecast for you guys. Looks like this. First of all, gorgeous. Secondly, just depending on your time, it's going to be jacket weather, especially as we get towards the 8 o'clock hour. Now, if you're leaving at 6 and you're not coming back anytime soon, first of all, I'd recommend jeans of some kind, make sure you cover up the legs, long sleeve shirts, maybe a windbreaker or a light jacket, or if you're just not tolerant to the cooler air, probably a sweatshirt as well, because we'll start off at 6 o'clock at 68 degrees after an afternoon high today of just right around 70. 64 by 7 o'clock as we hit sunset. And let me be clear again, this stinks, but this is the last couple of days of our sunset being this late because daylight saving time ends early Sunday morning and we fall back. Yes, it's the first Sunday in November. It's early this year because of just how the calendar works. So we have our last gasp of daylight saving time ahead for us here. We turn those clocks back and, we say that, but of course we know that unless you have an old style alarm clock, it's going to do it for you automatically these days. But just remember, we do get the extra hour of sleep, but now sunrise is that much earlier and sunset is, around 6 p.m. starting on Sunday. But clear skies tonight, 64 at 7 o'clock. 61 by 8 p.m. So as we dip into the 8 o'clock hour, and this is the Orlando forecast, by the way, there will be some areas that will be in the 50s. So if you plan to be outside beyond 8 o'clock, especially in our northern and northwest areas, you need to plan on the temperature being in the 50s for you. But again, fairly gentle north winds, crisp feel to the air. Hopefully we're not dealing with the mosquitoes as we typically do. And it's just a beautiful, safe and fun Halloween for all of us. My voice is still recovering from all the talking I did. So you'll excuse me if I have my Lean Law tumbler and my Publix Diet Green Tea. All right, so let's get into the forecast over the next couple days. We do have some changes. We are going to have some rain on the board again as well. First thing I want to look at, though, is I'm going to fire up our HER model, our high resolution rapid refresh. I'm just going to run this through. It's only going to take us through Sunday morning, just to kind of give you an idea. Now, through the weekend, I'm not expecting any rain here, right? We're going to have a boundary that stalls out south of us, and moisture is going to up and overrun that boundary. So for the far southern side of the state, they're likely to get back into some rain associated with that boundary. But for us, We're not going to. So if you have any plans whatsoever this weekend, I got to tell you something. It's a beautiful fall weekend. The farmers markets in the mornings, maybe doing some outdoor gardening in the afternoon. We're looking great. So I want to just go over to the temperatures here associated with the HER model and show you what these are looking like. We'll start off with tomorrow morning. And look at that. That's the dew points. First of all, the air is going to be even drier overnight. These are the actual temperatures. So here is 6 a.m. tomorrow morning. A lot of blue on this map. This is a true fall weekend for us here. Now, we'll look at the numbers I have, but on the model for tomorrow morning, you've got about 45 in Ocala. In the Villages, 46. Spring Hill, 48-ish, 47, 48. If Jesse had, would you have 47 this morning? If you had 47 this morning, wherever you are in the Spring Hill area, you're likely to be a degree or two cooler. Crystal River, Homosassa Springs, 47. Dade City, the same way. Look, even St. Pete, near the coastline, 51, 52. Tampa, 48. Orlando, 47-ish. Lake Nona, bit of an easterly breeze will keep the East Coast slightly warmer, but it is area dependent, right? It just depends. If you get just a touch inland from this onshore wind, you are going to drop down. So, it tries to keep Titusville in the lower 60s, but if you sneak just a couple miles inland, you've got yourself a temperature gradient which could be 7, 8, 9 degrees. So keep that in mind. Anywhere inland or where we don't have an easterly breeze, so the model is not picking up that wind to make its way through all of Merritt Island, and they're going to be in the low 50s as well. It's all going to be about whether you catch a touch of that east wind. If you don't, even along the East Coast, morning lows tomorrow are likely to fall into the 40s, even St. Augustine, 48, and then inland, again, you're going to be flirting with some low 40s in a couple of spots as well. So just a very, very cool start to our Saturday. Most areas will actually be in the 40s. If we look at Sunday morning on the HER model, temperatures in our southern areas will begin to warm just a little bit. The winds will be turning a little bit more out of the east. That's why. So you notice that now along the coastline, that east wind pushes a little bit more inland and starts to have some impacts to eastern areas. So, maybe we get back into the 40s in a couple of outlying areas of Orange County, but more of us will actually be back into the 50s for our Sunday morning. Now, 59 is probably too warm near the Sanford Deltona area, but the point that I wanted to make with the model is that in general, the farther west that you live, even if you live near the coast for Sunday morning, you're likely to be our cooler spots. So portions of Pinellas and Hillsborough and Pasco and Hernando and Citrus and Marion counties and Sumter counties and Lake counties, you are likely to have the coolest air for Sunday morning. So mainly 50s east, right around 50 or back into the upper 40s again for our Sunday morning here. But temperatures in general should start to come up a bit because we're going to see our next front arrive late on Sunday. With it, the opportunity for at least a couple of showers, and we're going to look at that right now, and then some extra cloud coverage, and actually keeping things on the cooler side for Monday. So let's go over to the GFS model here. I'm going to pop that puppy up. We'll just go out to Sunday night. Loop that up for a second, show you what's going on. Hey, Amy, how you doing? Good afternoon to you. You're not a fan of the cold? That's where I'm going to have to disagree with you. Look, again, even as a native Florida, I think it's the fact that I grew up in this, and the heat and the humidity, was just the only thing I felt because we never vacationed to cooler weather. As a matter of fact, really our only vacation every year was down to the Keys. Every so often we'd go up to, my grandparents had a home up in the mountains of North Carolina, but we always went in the summertime. And so my first job was in West Virginia, and I worked in other cooler areas. And Look, West Virginia was an interesting experience as a 21 and 22-year-old to be kind of in the middle of nowhere, West Virginia. But that area had true 4 seasons, and I fell in love with it. And subsequently, I worked in some other areas like Missouri and even Oklahoma that had 3 to 4 seasons. And I just enjoyed that part of it. I enjoy snow. I enjoy snow skiing. I learned how to snow ski. I tried to take advantage of the areas that I'd lived in because I knew I wasn't going to be there for very long as I was working my way through the television industry. So I just tried to take advantage of those spots and fell in love with seasons. So I do miss that. Actually, when we take vacations, we try and take vacations to cooler climates whenever we can, even in the summer months. But I get it. Belly Bird says, I'm a New Yorker living in Orlando. I get the cold hate, but I need it. So I worked in Albany for 1 year. That was too cold overall. And the reason why it was too cold, at least for me, is that it just shut everything down in the winter, right? And as someone who didn't have family there, was new to the area, wanted to explore, it was really hard unless you were trying to go up to Gore Mountain and snow ski in the Adirondacks and stuff. But I will tell you this. The summer months up in the Adirondacks is still some of the nicest weather I've ever experienced. And as a matter of fact, we try and go back up to the Lake George Adirondacks area about every other year. One of my best friends who I actually met after I left Albany, who went to Syracuse, actually ended up moving back to Albany area and lives there now. And so we coordinate, with them and some other friends I met in the TV industry. But there are some gorgeous areas to explore. Some, if you want to do that in the summer months, love going to Colorado in the summer months. And then we'll pick a spot or two to do some winter fun as well. Actually, one of our family friends has a home in the Banner Elk area of North Carolina. Love to go up there over the winter, do some skiing in Sugar and Beach Mountains. Home state, West Virginia, born and raised there. So I worked in Clarksburg. That was my very first job in television as a 21-year-old. I stupidly graduated college in 3 years. So I was 21 years old in like 5 months when I got my first gig in television, and it was a 5-day-a-week job. Tiny little Clarksburg, West Virginia. It's in the north central part of the state. Since we're talking about it, I might as well show you here. So here's Clarksburg right here. This is where I worked. Morganton is where West Virginia University is. So we would go up there, at least there were some college kids, and the football games, the weather for the football games was absolutely awesome. Elkins was another area. And then I learned to snow ski and snowshoe, which is somewhere down here. I'd have to find it. But Snowshoe Ski Resort in West Virginia was very kind to us and gave us a lot of free stuff. And that's how I learned how to snow ski. So try to pick it up. Drove through Clarksburg many times. Yeah, it's right on the interstate. Right on the interstate. Okay, enough about my background and that, but I've just come to enjoy seasons, having worked other various parts of the country. So now for us, we're into that time of the year, guys, where again, we've shut off the sea breeze thunderstorms. So we are now technically in the dry season, as I've mentioned before. What happens though, early in the dry season, just like we had earlier this week, is you get these frontal boundaries to come in, but they're still not fully clearing and they stall out over the area. And then those are the ones, because there's still a lot of moisture, relatively speaking, with high sea surface temperatures in the Gulf and in the Atlantic, and we get that heavy rain potential. Now this next front is going to be moisture starved, relatively speaking. And you can see on the GFS model here, as we get into Monday, the opportunity for some passing showers, but there's not a lot. Excuse me real quick. Dealing with a little bit of allergies, just wanted to clear the throat, and you guys didn't need to hear that. So again, just a little bit in the way of some rain. Now this should come in late Sunday night and into Monday. And I can show you guys real quickly as well here. The easiest way to actually see this front somewhat is with the cloud coverage map as well. So you can see the darker clouds coming in. Decent front for the mid-Atlantic states and even parts of the southeast. For us, a little bit in the way of some showers, and actually cool things down a little bit more with the extra cloud coverage on Monday. So you get a gorgeous Halloween. You get a really, really nice weekend, a little bit warmer on Sunday overall if you want some warmer weather, but we should be dry until very late Sunday night, and then the clouds begin to roll in late on Sunday with some showers, potentially overnight through portions of Monday, but there's not a lot of rain associated with this next front. So let's go over our city by city forecasts. They look like this. Starting with the attractions, I think it's an area that locals are going to be flocking to this weekend, and I don't blame them at all. Amazing weather. Again, the morning low tomorrow in Lake Buena Vista is 50, but many Orange County areas will be in the upper 40s. 75, sunshine, no humidity tomorrow. Fall continues for us. Temperatures still below average. 78 Sunday afternoon, 56 the morning low. Again, we fall back Sunday, so make sure those clocks are set back if they're manual. And then we'll build in a little bit of cloud coverage Sunday night into early on Monday with a couple of showers, more north winds, so it cools back down again. Morning lows will be held in the upper 50s with the extra cloud coverage, but with the north winds, we're going to stay with a daytime high on Monday of just 72 degrees. So for Orlando, today, we're going to be that 70, 72. We're right back to it on Monday. Tampa looks gorgeous. A little bit warmer there, but not bad at all. Sunny and dry tomorrow, 54. Again, you got a morning round of golf. You're getting out early. It is windbreaker jacket weather to start off the day, and then just a pristine afternoon, 76 the daytime high. A little bit more of, again, an east to a southeast wind should build temperatures warmer again. 79 degrees, a lot of upper 70s, Pinellas, Hillsborough counties, portions of Manatee and Sarasota County, Bradenton, Sarasota areas could flirt with 80 degrees for the high on Sunday, and then just really pleasant weather again. A few more clouds Sunday, a 20% chance for a light shower here or there, 59 the morning low on Monday, and 75 the daytime high. Oops, sorry about that. Swing over to the next one. Oh, why didn't that come in? There we go. Ocala's forecast, all right? Here's your coolest and wettest for the next few days, right? Tomorrow morning, we're down to 45 in Ocala. So Silver Springs, Bellevue areas, Denellen, low and mid 40s out there, right? But again, a fantastic afternoon. 73 degrees with the sunshine tomorrow afternoon, just a little bit of cloud coverage on Sunday, and again, a little bit warmer, 52 at Ocala Sunday morning, 75 the daytime high, but the clouds will enter the picture a little bit earlier, late Sunday, and right around sunset or just after, we could have a couple of showers there, but mainly this is early on Monday for the Ocala area. Slightly better chance at a 30% chance. There's a little bit more moisture, and as the front moves through, it's going to be weakening a bit as we typically see in early November, so favoring a slightly better rain chance in our northern and western areas, but not much more. Again, 52 the morning low, but just 69 the daytime high on Monday with the extra cloud coverage and the opportunity for a couple of passing showers here and there as well. All right, let me get you your last forecast here. And that's going to be for Daytona Beach, right? Again, warmer in the mornings because of the onshore wind. Again, we're tapping into the relatively warmer waters of the coastal Atlantic. But those temperatures, still with east winds, you don't warm up as much in the afternoon hours as well. So you don't see nearly as much of a diurnal range, especially Sunday and Monday with that. It'll be a cool morning tomorrow, 52 degrees, because again, we're not having the penetrating east winds starting on Saturday up in Volusia County, and just a gorgeous afternoon at 73. Once the east to southeast winds kick in a little bit more ahead of the front on Sunday, morning lows should climb by nearly 10 degrees by Sunday morning, but another beautiful day. No rain in the forecast for Volusia County on Sunday. Now late Sunday night and especially overnight into early Monday, building in a little bit of cloud coverage with the front, 20% chance for showers, 60 the morning low, but again, just 71 degrees for the daytime high. If you're looking for warmer weather down the road, I do expect by Wednesday of next week that a lot of areas will be back to right around 80 for a daytime high. Look, this time of the year, the 60s and 70s for daytime highs, they don't stick around forever, and we should be back on that temperature climb by mid next week. Well, Ocala Blue Goose, first of all, is inland and they're north. It's as simple as that, right? They don't have the influence of the water near them, and it's just one of those cooler spots. Gainesville is even cooler as well. You know, I grew up in Crystal River, and my brother and subsequently myself, we both went to the University of Florida. I would remember he would come home sometimes. He would come home sometimes from UF in the winter, and his car would be covered in ice, like a glaze of ice, and it was not nearly as cold there. So, you know, the water-land interaction along the coast really can make a big difference to temperatures. And also, there's not nearly as much wind inland as well overnight, so air can settle a little bit more. You get the thicker frost. You get that layer of ice when it gets cold enough in the wintertime as well. Anyone have any specific questions about the forecast? All right. Well, first of all, guys, I appreciate you tuning in. Thank you for all of those who watched on the Media Mundo channel for all the coverage of Hurricane Melissa. You know, appreciate those who understood. There was a lot of coverage there. Jumping on this channel when I can, and obviously, you know, back a little bit more casual discussion today, which is always a good thing as well. Please remember that CFLW is sponsored by the Lean Law Firm of Central Florida, your hometown homeowners insurance attorneys. Look, you know, we had some damage this week with these storms. We had some flooding. If you know anyone who had, maybe yourself as well, you can always check them out. They cover the entire state. They offer free consultation and policy reviews, so you really have nothing to lose. If you want to support someone who supports the channel, it's leanonmelaw.com for more information. If you guys are going out this evening and trick-or-treating, be safe, have fun, enjoy. I'm gonna have a great time with the kids, great time with the other families in the neighborhood. You know, gonna relax a little bit and enjoy that. Have a lovely weekend. I'll be back Monday. When I see you on Monday, we'll talk about a little bit of the rain in the area now. We'll talk about the better opportunity for temperatures to warm up next week if that comes with some rain. And I'm always keeping an eye on the tropics this time of the year. Look, I know we're getting into early November, but early November is a time, it's, you know, we don't have a big window left, but early November is a time where close to home, we could still get some tropical development, and I'll be monitoring that, and we'll talk about that on Monday's show. Until then, my friends, I really appreciate you guys. Thanks again. Have a great Friday. Have a great Halloween. Happy Halloween. And I'll see you guys on Monday for the next edition of CFLW, the show. Take care, friends.